Hello and welcome to another Offseason Outlook episode of the Father and Son Pastime Podcast. I'm Patrick.
I'm Kevin. How are you?
That's my dad. Dad. I'm already getting silly. It is
You're gonna go.
Charles Nelson Riley. That we were talking about the NL East today. That's why I have my Braves shirt on. We are going to go through each NL East team, what they lost heading into the offseason, and then what they need. We found a good little pattern here where I address what they lost, you address kind of what they need. I like that. I think we could keep up that pattern, and we're going in the order they finished the season. So we're going to start with the Phillies. They made the playoffs, but they suffered arguably some of the biggest losses in the NL East.
Yes.
I think the number of people lost will go to the Mets. But in terms of really big names, I think it's the Phillies. But we'll get into all that. You can feel free to debate at home, Mets fans. The big three that the Phillies lost are Kyle Schwarber, who has a qualifying offer attached, JT Realmuto, the same thing, and Ranger Suarez. Really big names there. Ranger Suarez has been with his Phillies his whole life. A lot of money. I think JT is a little older of a catcher. He would be up there more in free agency. But some really big names there. They lost some, I think Harrison Bader is worth mentioning as the fourth name there, too. He's not going to get the contract the others will do, but he really became a great Philly towards that second half of the season.
He did. Good year.
Yeah, Max Kepler is gone. Jordan Romano's gone. I think a lot of Phillies happy about that. David Robertson may retire. He had that little end with them. Walker Buehler also had that little bit of end, and they lost Tim Mesa as well. They had a lot of big names there. Arguably four really big names. Their salary keeps increasing.
I think they want to thin the herd a little bit, too, and veteran outfielders.
Yes, I think more names might leave this team, such as Nicky Castellanos, in the coming maybe days or even weeks of 2025, 2026 offseason. Dad, I still think this is a very high-end team. I'm trying to pull up their numbers and all that stuff right now. If you're just watching this, and this is the first episode of the Offseason Outlook series you've joined into, I'm going to give my best estimate of how much money the Phillies will spend this offseason, or I guess have to spend. I wrote down that they have about $50 million to spend, and I'm going to show you how I came up with that figure, while my dad gives the needs of the offseason. Go ahead.
Do needs?
Yeah,
okay.
go needs.
I think it's all going to depend on who leaves the Phillies organization. Right now, they got a hole in the middle of that lineup. No one protecting, Bryce Harper. So let's say they lose Schwarber, they have to replenish him, and the 30 to 40 home runs he hits every year. And then, the outfield, if Nicky Bag of Donuts leaves, then all of a sudden that is an outfield position. An outfield position they need. So right now, I think Bryce Harper is a little nervous, saying, okay, if I'm hitting 3, who's hitting 4 and 5? So right now, I think the Phillies need to concentrate on power and middle of the lineup, with that. And then also, I think they need a little bullpen examination and a starting pitcher just to replace the people they're losing. They're going to be busy this offseason, and I think Dombrowski's very, very intent on filling that. And the stuff I read, rumor is this the year Mike Trout comes east?
No.
Food for thought.
They're not taking on that contract.
Well, if the Angels pick up half of it.
Isn't that sad about clearly a Hall of Famer?
Yeah.
Just such a Griffey-esque kind of life.
Yeah. Yeah, injuries, center fielder, hitting the wall.
I said 50 because they spent about $292 million on their payroll last year. With all those subtractions and then factoring arbitration, that's the process here, it's roughly $240. So there's your $50 million gap. They might spend more. I don't know if they hit $300 million. They already have been consistently in the tax issue, so who knows how much money that they are going to actually owe on top of their salary. Sorry, folks. So again, is it 50? Could it be even more? This is sort of the closing of their window, I feel, with the aging players of Harper and maybe of the Turners and some of their pitchers. How much more do they have in this core before they got to do it all over again? They have $60 million that invested into 3 players that are non-players for them. Castellanos, Aaron Nola, and Taijuan Walker. That's $60 million that's useless. That could go get Realmuto, Schwarber, Bader, or more.
Yeah.
It's just they have some prospects that they can still dangle. They did have to trade one of the top pitchers to get some of the names from, I believe, the Twins. I think they should also let Bohm go. I was surprised they tendered him even a contract. Maybe they think he has some trade value. It's kind of interesting to see who, I guess, they go after, where they spend their money. Did you address their kind of needs? Are those people that left?
Correct, and that they've been hurting for a leadoff hitter for a long time as well. So if, let's say, Schwarber does come back, you got to find another leadoff hitter. So that could be in the mix.
Yeah.
I
am curious to see what this team does if they kind of almost have 2 directions. Do they just re-sign everybody and they say, hey, we're going to try this one more time to see if our formula works? Or do they accept that their formula hasn't worked and go a completely different direction?
I mean, that's a great question. I mean, that's a heck of a question for a GM to answer, because the easy one is to resign everybody.
Yep.
That takes guts to rebuild. Mm-hmm. I think Schwarber's the key.
Yeah.
If they lose him, then they go, uh-oh. And then they have to say, now we really need to hit the gas pedal. And, he's such an important fixture of the Phillies lineup and very popular in the city. That's the biggie. And I think Nicky Bag of Donuts is as good as gone.
Nicky Bag of Donuts.
That's his nickname.
Well, he's got to get a new one. Dad, let's go up 95 to New York. Like I said, New York has the most money in baseball, right? So we'll talk about that. They've lost a whole bunch, but I think some of these players aren't, I guess, as vital to the core or vital to the identity of the team as some of the teams of Phillies. Pete Alonso is the big name here. He opted out of his contract, as did Edwin Diaz. So you lose your first baseman, you lose your closer. You also lose some of these are pickups that they had mid-season. Some of the like you'll see, they're going to go down in kind of quality and recognition. Starlin Marte, Cedric Mullins, Jesse Winker, a lot of those fourth outfielders. Ryan Helsley pickup, Gregory Soto pickup, Tyler Rogers pickup, Ryan Stanek, Griffin Canning, Chris Davinsky, Drew Smith, Nick Madrigal, Frankie Montas, and they obviously did do that swap just recently to acquire Marcus Semien and gave up long-timer Brandon Nimmo. This is a team that's fine with giving up their core. That is okay probably for moving on from Pete or moving on from all these names, because they just got rid of Nimmo, who's been on their organization for 15 years.
And very popular.
Super popular.
Yeah.
So this could be a very refreshed team come 2026.
And money's no object.
Money's no object. I threw out $80 million to spend on free agents.
Yeah.
It could be more. It probably will be. But I thought $80 million will be where they end up. Who knows? That's a really wild guess on my part, and it would be a wild guess on your part too. Yeah. Dad, what else do they need? They have a lot of needs, so go ahead.
I'm thinking they're going to concentrate a lot of that wealth on the pitching aspect, because I think that's one of the areas that really floundered last year. I think they're going to sign one of the top 5 pitchers. And I'm thinking, if it sounds like with the money, will they go for a top ace and, middle of the road type of people to get into starting rotation? And then just to fill those needs, let's say whoever leaves, they have to replenish those folks too. I think they need some power. To tell you the truth, to get in there and score some runs. They're in a division that, they weren't real happy how things ended last year.
No playoffs.
Right. And you got, Soto in there, and he thought he was going to be the magic star. It didn't happen. So I'm thinking they're kind of like the Phillies. They either got to hit the gas pedal to say, hey, we're going to go for it right now. We're going to spend tons of money. We're going to be a championship team. We're going to battle the Dodgers, all that. So I think the Mets will have an extremely busy offseason. And they'll spend maybe the most money of any team in the National League.
Yeah. That's always a good bet. It's a safe bet.
Yeah.
The Dodgers are a much fuller team than the Mets, so those are always really your 2 guesses for the National League expenditures.
Did you get that trade, though? Marcus Semien, you think?
I didn't expect it.
Yeah.
This does lead me to that point, though. Earlier in our other episodes of the Offseason Outlook series, we talked about kids or veterans. The Mets are no exception. So I have a pick 2, trade 2 scenario. By getting Marcus Semien, who's I think signed for the next 5 years, 4 years, 3 years.
Yeah.
It's multiple years. That closes the door on somebody. My personal guess is it's Luis Angel Acuna. But they have Brett Beatty, Mark Vientos, Ronnie Mauricio, and Luis Angel Acuna. For one of those guys can play first base, and that's if they let Alonso go. Second baseman is clogged. Lindor clogged at third base. I'm sorry, Lindor clogged at shortstop.
Yep.
And then again, third base is like you can't play 4 of those guys at third base or 3 of those guys at third base.
Yeah.
So I don't know how deep like their plans go. If they re-sign Alonso, they re-sign any long-term first baseman. Vientos really could be gone. So I think the Mets are going to trade a lot of those players. I said pick 2, trade 2. It could be pick 1, trade 3. But yeah,
I think a couple guys are on the block already. They're seeing what they're going to get for him and everything. So it could be a 60% new team in New York opening day.
Well, they've thought about trading Kodai Senga. They do have a ton of young pitchers coming up. Do they go a youth movement there? But veteran movement in the player field. Is Jeff McNeil also going to get traded?
He's one of the ones on the block.
Really, the Mets, again, if you're just doing odds, we should have a bunch of Mets in our top 50 free agent predictions coming later today because they have a lot of holes and they have a lot of money. That typically means you'll be active.
Yeah. And again, with the owner they have, I bet he was not happy they didn't make the playoffs. And I think they're just saying, this is the year.
When he came in, when old Uncle Stevie came in, he said, I'll have a World Series in the next 5 years. Those 5 years are officially up. So he's on borrowed time. I know he's the owner. It's not like a GM or something. But he did not fulfill his promise of a World Series in 5 years. So does that make him, pull out of the public eye and go, just kind of become an average owner? Or is he, I'm sorry I didn't achieve my goal. Here's $200 million more. Here's a $500 million payroll.
It's B. Because I think he is distraught that, and don't forget, they compete against the Yankees in the biggest city in America.
Yep. And they spend more than them.
So I really think that there's always been an age-old battle of Mets and Yankees, and we're the fan base, and and the advertising dollars and all that stuff. He wants to be the big apple in
the big apple, the big cheese in the big apple.
That's right. So I think this might be the off season that they even do more than last year. They got plenty of holes to fill.
Then let's move on to the surprise third place finishers, the Miami Marlins, who we saw back in April at their home stadium. They don't have any losses, Dad. So this is probably a really quick team. I don't know how much money Miami spends. It's not a big budget team. At one point they were. Remember when they had Stanton and Yelich and Ozuna?
Yeah.
Fernandez. I think they might spend $20 to $25 million. They might get a marquee player, one name, maybe 2. They don't need pitching, but Dad, I'll let you kind of talk about what they couldn't buy if they choose to spend.
I think the big hole is first base.
Yep.
And I think a power hitting first baseman would really help that lineup. They've made some nice trades. I mean, the trade with the Orioles kind of worked out on both sides. But right now, I think first base is their biggest need. They could always use a little more offense, probably a little more bench. But that's a team that has a great farm system that now they've seen that progress. And they're playing at the major league level and the trades they made. And don't forget, they have enough pitching. Could they trade one of those fine folks for some offense along the way? I think the jury's out because at the deadline, 2 of the pitchers were on the block. They didn't get enough in return, so they stayed in Miami. So I'm thinking they could be active in the trade market, but free agent, I think they'd go after a first baseman with power and probably maybe a DH with some power. I think that's their big needs.
Mm-hmm. There's a plethora of first base DH options for them. I would love to see Miami become, it should be a baseball city. It's got this Cuban influence. It's got this Cuban connection of ball players. Go get a Cuban ball player. Like, that seems to make sense to me. You have a bunch of white guys on this team, which is cool and all. But I really, you got a lot of Americans is what my point is. I think you could certainly go find a Cuban ball player that hits for power. I would love for this to happen. Luis Robert gets traded to this team. I know he's on a first baseman, like you said, Dad, but they got two outfitters with Stowers and Marseille, and then Myers is kind of a distant third. Make one of them a DH, move one of them to the corners. Maybe Robert's a corner outfielder now. I just think that there is an opportunity to get him for cheap.
Yeah, the White Sox will make that trade.
So, and they have pitching. They have a ton of pitching, and the White Sox, even though they do have a lot of prospects that are pitchers, sure, why can't that work out? I also think they could upgrade their bullpen. I'm really intrigued by their starting pitching, but they don't really have the depth in the bullpen, and I don't think they have a closer to take the ball in the ninth inning of a win.
Yeah. But, they won more games than most people thought.
Oh, yeah.
They have some speed. They play situational baseball pretty well, and you got to give them credit for finishing ahead of the Braves.
Well, speaking of the Braves, Dad.
That's why I did it.
Look at you. Probably the most disappointing team in baseball last year. You can make arguments for Texas or arguments for Houston or arguments for Baltimore. For me, it is the Braves. Everyone in baseball lauded the Braves 4 years ago once they won the World Series to lock everybody up, have this established young core. That's the way baseball does it. This team is going to win 5 out of the next 10 World Series. Go look back at 2021. That was the prediction. That was before Shohei was a Dodger, all that. They have only had that World Series since, and they didn't even make the playoffs this year. They had a lot of injuries. They had Strider coming back, kind of mid-year, Acuna coming back mid-year. They never really got off the ground. They never had momentum. So it's a tough season in Atlanta, and they had some losses. Marcell Ozuna, which somehow we mentioned with Miami, he's a DH that is off to find the next big contract. They did keep Raciel Iglesias. I was a little surprised about that for, I think, the qualifying offer, which I don't think a closer deserves that much.
That's a lot of money for a closer.
Me. Hold on.
Bless you.
Sorry, folks. And then they lost someone that I think they wanted to keep around, but Ha-Seong Kim chose free agency over to stay with his option. They lost a lot of other little pieces. Charlie Morton was on the team for like a day to retire as a Brave. That doesn't really count. Carlos Carrasco also was like a midseason pickup to eat some innings. Alek Manoah, that Blue Jay connection, he's out in the ether again. Don't know if he'll pitch. Very weird story.
He had so much promise.
They lost some relievers, Tyler Kinley, Pierce Johnson. They already traded Nick Allen. Jake Fraley is also gone, I think, signed with the Rays. So there's a lot of their pieces that they lost are retired, traded. They're already moving to new homes. And their big injury is that A.J. Smith-Shawver guy that he's out to about mid to late season. So just wanted to add that as sort of a loss as well.
Yeah, their big hole right now is shortstop. They have no one.
Correct.
Playing shortstop. And the trade they got Dubon from I think the Astros.
Yeah.
He's kind of utility guy. He's not. I don't think he's primary shortstop.
No.
But they really need a shortstop, and I think they need some bench, and I really think they need just a jolt to make them the Braves of old, and being the hitting machine and moving runners first to third and everything else. I think they got stale. And they got an awful start last year, if you remember. They got so bad that they climbed the ladder a little bit and then got past midseason and just stagnated. But they just, no one expected the Braves to be that bad last year. And all that kind of happened at the start of the season, and they never regained a lot of energy, even if some players came back. So they're going to be interesting in the offseason. Again, how much money they're going to put in there. And again, they try to be a power team. Very difficult division. I think they're going to have to spend money to get back to the top.
Short answer is yes. They do have a trade chip, in my opinion, on Sean Murphy. They just had Drake Baldwin win Rookie of the Year. Yeah. They have a very similar problem as the Orioles with they have 2 starting catchers. Do they make it one a DH? What do they do? A lot of people need catchers this offseason. I don't know if anyone lines up perfectly with a catcher for a shortstop, on this list. The most unique situation would be the Texas Rangers. If they're able to give him a catcher and pull Corey Seager, if they're also going to do a big roster core flip, they already got rid of Semien. Maybe they move Seager too. Seager is a Atlanta Brave, but he too has a no trade clause. So there's a lot of moving pieces there. That's more of a pipe dream of mine. But yes, they need a shortstop. They need a DH. Maybe again, who can't trade a pitcher for a catcher type of thing. So who knows what they'll end up doing. I think they should move Murphy in this situation and let their rookie controllable catcher become their core like they have done with Riley and Albies and Harris and Acuna. But yeah, I think this should be pedal to the metal. When they see the spending power of the Mets, they see the talent with the Phillies, they have to go or they're never they're just gonna be average.
And their GM is pretty aggressive, so I think I think they let him do his thing and he'll go. But to finish behind the Marlins was a wake up call for that organization.
Yeah, it's going to be a very tumultuous NL East offseason as we move on to the Nationals.
Nice word choice, by the way.
I took the SAT. Dad, the Nats were really disappointing for me. I thought both of us, we took the over if we go back to March, where we thought they would finish in maybe the mid 70s, hover around 500 with all that young talent. Now there's rumors about trading Mackenzie Gore. We'll get into all this, but they have incredible talent. They didn't lose a ton of talent because they have a lot of youth and controllable outfielders and infielders. Josh Bell is like a notorious returner at this point, but he's a free agent. Paul DeJong, kind of again, a let's play second, let's play short, let's play third. And Derek Law in the bullpen. They traded, Finnegan and a couple other pieces at the deadline, so they only really lost 3. DJ Hers, which I think was a Cub at one point.
He was.
He's out until summer. Trevor Williams is out until May, so they have some injuries to think about there. Dad, there's a ton of needs with this team. Go ahead.
Pitching. They really, suffered. They had 0 bullpen.
Yep, still do.
I was watching a game this season, and their broadcast team saying that once you get to the 5th inning with the Nationals, don't put any bets down because they have given up so many leads. They just didn't have any quality pitching on the back end, especially after the trade deadline. They just they have a lot of younger players that are position guys. You got James Wood, but I don't think he can carry a club. But along the way, some of their great rookies just didn't pan out. They got hurt. They didn't have the year that they thought. They really need an overhaul. New GM in town, new manager in town. So I'm thinking this is their off season to make a mark. I don't know how much money they have to spend, but
I'll talk about that.
But I really think because of the new hierarchy in DC, this is the off season that they have to compete. They gotta do well. They're gonna have to battle the big boys in the NL East just to compete for middle of the pack. If not, they're gonna finish last.
Agreed. I am guessing here it's $40 million or so to spend. It is more than what they spent from this team to last year's team because they need to compete a little bit. I think they should start locking up some players.
James Wood.
Brady House is an interesting name, so that should be your third baseman of the future. He is 6'4", so he could certainly be a first baseman too. He struggled with his major league debut. He hit .304 at AAA. He's only 22. I have to imagine some of that's got to translate soon. He was a negative player, hit .234 with his, 200 at bats with the team last year. Again, it's okay that he didn't have a star-struck year. C.J. Abrams, we were talking this time last year, we thought, cut him. He's this gambling-addicted player. Came back, great story. He's good now. There is no first baseman. There is no DH. There is no bullpen. There's no depth of starters. Josiah Gray maybe looks good after his hiatus with Tommy John. The Mackenzie Gore rumors are weird. I don't know if that's just
They were going to trade him at the deadline, couldn't get enough for him.
God, he strikes out a lot of people. I want to do that.
And young, strong left-hander.
This was what you traded Soto for.
Correct.
Like, why would you let?
Well, they thought they'd cash him in for four players.
Unless that's 4 ready-made players.
I know.
I don't know.
But there's a new GM in town, so there could be a new perspective. And they're like the Orioles. They did really well when they were really bad with number 1, number 2 draft choices. That's kind of like shrank. So I don't think the farm system is nearly as good as it once was. Yeah. So I don't see the stars on the horizon either.
No, Kay Cavalli's finally like kind of back. He kind of got that major league call up. Brad Lord, I mean that's your 4th and 5th starters, and it's I don't know. It's not competitive. It's probably the most kind way to say that. Yes, if they don't make the splash, they could hover in the bottom for a while.
Yeah,
this really is a go moment. This is the Braves 5 years ago. Hey, who's this Austin Riley kid? Who's this Michael Harris 2? Why is he a 2, not a junior? Let's invest in him. Let's go. Let's get people around him. Let's get all stars around him. I would love for the Nats to be competitive. I don't know. I'm a little pessimistic on the Nats, Dad.
Yeah.
Coming into this offseason.
Yeah, they're hurting for attendance.
Yeah.
They got a beautiful stadium, but last year they did everything they could to try to get fans back to the stadium. But once they got in the last place, boy, their attendance went way down. So again, we'll see what happens. They have a clean slate to build from, and they have plenty of opportunities. We'll see how aggressive they are, and if they're in the trade market. They traded a lot of guys at the deadline. The outfielders, 4th, 5th outfielders, some relief pitching, and all that. You could tell once they thinned the herd, it got bad in DC.
I picked a lot of Nats. I picked the Nats to be a lot of landing places last offseason. So we have a very fool me once type of situation, and I don't know if you're going to fool me twice.
Oh, good one. You're good today, baby.
We're having fun, everybody. That will do it for the NL East. I think our next episode will be the AL Central. So if you're a big Tigers guy, Royals guy, White Sox fans, where are you? Come on down. We would love to talk about you just after this. And thanks for watching.
Enjoy.